Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
The worst week of my life? I've M29, been with my fiancé, F28, for just over 9 years now, and we've got a 5-year-old daughter together. We were supposed to get married in October of last year, but I ended up canceling the wedding after a huge fight about her spending money that we didn't have. We stayed together after that. I felt immense guilt, and she felt immense pain and shame. The last year with COVID has been rough. She lost her job as a result of the pandemic, and as the main caregiver of our child, my own work took a huge hit without access to childcare. She got a new job back in September last year, worked at home from Jan-March, and then returned to the office of her new place. Things are off. Intimacy has dried up. She's always on her phone when she's here, and she's not very pleasant to be around. She says her hormones are whack. They are, and she just needs time to unwind after work, so I don't push too hard and I try my best to get on with it. I'm wary of what's going on. In our relationship, I assume it's related still to bad feelings over the wedding, but I don't for a second think that she's being unfaithful. My daughter turned 5 a couple of weeks back. Shortly beforehand, I was reminiscing and looking through old photos/videos of her from my phone/Google Photos. My partner's Google account is logged in and I begin to look at the photos she's taken as well. There, between a picture of Toad in the hole and another of my daughter, I find a set of nude photos. She's never sent me a nude photo before, and so alarm bells are immediately ringing. I find another set of her in lingerie from February. I confront her about it, and she explains that her girlfriends had recommended she take some to build her self-esteem and to spice up our relationship, but she had decided against sending to me because she didn't like the way they looked. One set was taken just before Valentine's Day, and the other just before our anniversary. So I think I believe what she says, but there's this awful doubt sitting in my stomach. She starts spending an awful lot of time at the office, getting in an hour early and frequently staying late. My doubts are eating at me, and while browsing this subreddit and others, I discovered Google Location Timeline. She's still logged in on my PC, and so I look at where she's been. Often when she says she's staying late at the office, the timeline shows her leaving on time and going to a location nearby for an hour or so, and then coming home. At this point, I assume the worst. I cross-reference all the times she said she stayed late, and the GPS data, and find about 10 occasions in the last few months where she's not where she says she is. I don't confront her yet. Last Thursday again, she claims to have stayed late at work for a meeting, but the GPS data has her at the same location nearby afterwards. The next day, after we put our daughter to bed, she gets in the shower, and I do the naughty and snoop through her phone. I check the messages from one of her coworkers, and I'm utterly distraught. I find sexually explicit texts between the two, talk about out of hours, fun time, her getting lifts back with him without my knowledge. I'm seeing red and confront her immediately. She tells me the sexual texts are just banter, that's the environment in the office and she wanted to fit in. I don't believe her and reveal that she's been lying to me about when she leaves work and where she's going, which she denies even after I show her the information, claims that it's not right. She's in hysterics at this point, and she's begging me to let her explain everything, and so I let her. She tells me that after she returned to work after working from home, she was struggling to adjust. The workload had increased and she was stressing out big time. One day in March, she had what sounds like a panic attack at the office, which she had never told me about. She was ashamed and about it for some reason. One of old friends hears about the incident and comes to her and says that her sister is in the process of starting up an online therapy business, and if she wanted to talk to someone, then she could do so for free in exchange for a testimonial when they launch. This is what she says she's been doing after work when the location data doesn't add up. Now, I struggle to believe what she's saying, and don't quite know how it links back to sexual texts with her coworker. So she tells me that the coworker came to her afterwards and told her she needs to distress via fantasy. He and one of her bosses start to make sexual jokes about her, which she apparently tolerates and eventually joins in with. Then he started to send messages to her in the same manner, and she responds the same. She then claims that about a month ago it escalated, and while she was in the kitchen the coworker slapped her backside, and she freaked out at him. She told some of the other women there about it, who told her to report it to the big boss, and she did so the next day. The co-worker got shouted at and their relationship apparently frosted over. I remember around this time that my fiancé had mentioned that the co-worker had become insufferable to her because he had been doing badly and was on the verge of losing his job, obviously missing out some crucial details. Since that point there weren't any sexual messages on her phone but had got a ride back with him. She's apologizing a bunch and saying that her mind wasn't right and she thought I'd blame her for it for some reason. I told her that I'd never think that if the interactions were one way, but they weren't. Anyway, I'm not buying it particularly. I tell her it's over, to leave me alone, and in the morning I take my daughter and go to my parents for the day. That evening I falter. I talk the situation over with my sister, and she suggests that individually each thing could be plausible but the whole situation is shady, which it is. I go back home later that night and after the little one was put to bed we have a much calmer conversation about it all. I get her to admit that she enjoyed the attention at first as a boost to her self-esteem, that at the very least she was dishonest and incredibly inappropriate with another man, but also that I understood that the relationship was heavily strained. Things are looking okay. I tell her I'm willing to get couples counseling and try to forgive her behavior. She agrees that she wants to stay together, but then says she wants to take it at her own pace, that she doesn't want to rush back to acting as if everything's okay when it isn't. She also claims that she's not sure that I would forgive her. I'm unsure what she means. I'm confused. Why am I pushing for it? If she wants to ask her to show me a shred of proof of these online therapy sessions, she can't. After some intrusive thoughts in my head, we frost over again and don't talk much the next day. I tell her that she has to seek the solution. It's on her to rebuild the trust that she broke, and then we can work on the relationship's deeper issues. She says it's just a lot, and we both need time to process our feelings. She's starting to get annoyed/defensive at answering my questions about her what's been going on. When she next returned home from work, she tells me that she's got work to do tonight, so after bedtime she gets her laptop out and starts typing away. I'm angry. I ask her what she thinks she's doing, why when her family is balancing on a knife's edge she wouldn't use the couple of hours we have together to talk it out more. She reluctantly agrees. She's incredibly deflective, claims that I'm pushing her too hard on it, that I'm not considering her feelings, and that since on D-Day I told her that we were no longer together, that we weren't together at that point. So I told her if that's the case then she can leave. She says she won't, and so I say that if she doesn't I'll take my name off of the contract. We rent, and she pays her own way. More hysterics, more accusations of my awfulness. But ultimately she gives and it goes to her mother's to stay. She's there now while I'm with the little one. I'm utterly crushed right now and not sure that reconciliation is possible, or if I even want it. Her story just seems like utter nonsense. I can't get my head around it all, around what is true. I don't know if she had an emotional affair, a full-on affair, or none of the above, and she's just actually struggling and has been keeping it from me. Either way she's not here now, and I'm struggling to hold everything together. Thanks for reading.